Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Single in the City. My name is Justin C. Gilbert. I am joined by my vivacious and effervescent co-hosts, Miss Genesis Moore.
Hey, everybody.
And Tiara Berry.
Effervescent. I like that
You know
one.
what I'm saying? I do what I can with these adjectives. Listen, we're going to get right to it. So, we're at the point of the show. It's just like my favorite. I love this part of every show. Asking for a friend segment gives me life. And we get so much great feedback from our viewers. We got friends.
We got some
And our friends got questions.
Many questions.
They want to know.
My homeboy actually had a question for me that I'd like to bring to you ladies.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so my homeboy reached out to me distraught because his wife discarded a box of his belongings. Happy times, some previous relationships, vacations, so some pictures, notes, gifts.
Notes.
And his wife threw it away because she said that his past had no place in the space where they're building their future.
That's some words. I need to write that down.
The question is, would you ever discard your spouse's time capsule? Why or why not?
Oh,
I'm going to let you go first, T.
that's a difficult question.
Cue the
I agree.
toxicity. Here we go.
That's a difficult question because I want to know, why do you have it? Like, if she bought you a really nice Versace sweater, I can see why you would want to keep that.
Yeah.
But if you're holding on to some love letters from high school, why?
Well, what's the difference? A Versace sweater or a love note? It's all a token of someone's feelings towards you.
Yeah.
Should it be discarded just because you're no longer with that person? Or should you, can you still hang on to it? Like, what do you think?
I think there's a fine line between keeping something because it meant something to you and just being an overall hoarder of all different.
Okay.
And
That's
I
fair.
think if you're keeping on, take a picture of it. It'll last longer.
Yikes.
And throw it away. Move on.
I guess my question would be, these things from previous relationships, are these people that he's still in love with? He's still got feelings for?
point.
Or why it?
I think the sentiment is when it was presented to him. So it's about these being a token of a person's affections, right? So whether you're with that person or not, the sentiment is still the same. Space and a different time. The sentiment is no less, powerful. It's no less relevant.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
All right. I got some feedback.
Talk to me.
If it's like from a marriage and you share the life,
Yes.
y'all have kids, you share the dog, something like that, I understand.
Okay.
I can get that.
Okay.
But if it's, I have this because it's just love letters from this girl that I'm really hoping she get divorced soon so I could drop you and get with somebody else, I don't like that.
I agree.
That's
I don't like
interesting. And how does one go about deciphering if that is the case, or if it's just something that was special to him that just happened to make it to the home that you now both reside in?
Well, that's something only he.
Like, if you're dating somebody who is extremely thoughtful about every single thing they do, they keep every card that they get from people for their birthdays. They're the type of person, they go into Target and they gonna spend a lot of time. Me, I get cards from Dollar Tree. It was $1, now it's $1.25. But I feel like I can spend more money on the gift than the card. I'm not into the words. I can write some words.
Okay.
But some people really do spend a lot of time getting those small gestures of appreciation, like those cards, or writing very thoughtful notes out. So if that's his persona and he keeps something like that from his past, I can say, I can see why you kept it. I wouldn't want him going through the box every day and pulling it out. Like, this is my time capsule. Let's take a look every week. But it depends on the nature of the relationship and I think the personality of the person.
I agree with that. And I also think that if it's something that's kept in the attic, just of past memorabilia, that has nothing to do. We're building our life regardless.
Yeah.
I agree.
So I wouldn't. And I do think that there is a personal boundary thing here. I know we talk all the time about boundaries, I know. But I don't think she should feel comfortable throwing his things away without asking him.
Exactly.
To me,
She
that's
should never.
we got some deeper issues going on here.
She
So
should
your
never.
homeboy, he gotta,
That's an insecurity.
Assess.
If we're
Yeah,
at this point,
absolutely.
we're married. We locked in.
Yeah.
So
Facts.
what are you throwing stuff away for?
Facts.
Exactly. And it's, if he knew he married an insecure woman, and that's just her nature, then hey,
Is it,
y'all be complaining when y'all sign up for stuff sometimes. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Is it insecurity or territorial nature? Is it insecurity or someone's territorial nature? Like, is a woman just being territorial and not wanting anyone to have her husband's affections other than her, even if it's a past love?
Well, that's unrealistic.
Yeah. Yeah.
First.
I mean, you're going to share it anybody. Not to say you sharing your husband, but I mean, it just because he's your husband doesn't mean that you can say, oh, I'm not that he's ever been with, unless y'all been together since y'all was, what, 6? Like, you have to understand he has a past that helped you get with him now. You know, like those are the relationships and the situations that built him to be the man that he is for you today. You have to, in some way, even if that's something you don't like to think about, it's something you have to respect.
Now, that's real. That's one of the things I've heard you say today. Yeah. And I appreciate
And we're just getting started.
I mean, it is early, yes. It's really a matter of respecting people's, because I think to a certain degree that's a privacy thing. Like, that's something that belongs to him.
Yeah.
It's in the attic. She's trying to free up space, but there was an element that was negative. It had a slant to it that had a little controlling, let me kind of assert some authority here.
It's
and
so many different things that could be the reason why I kept it. Say if this woman had cancer and passed away, you know, and it's like, you know, she was a beautiful person, even though it didn't work out for us. I held on to this because I like to keep her memory alive, and I cared about. You don't know why they keep things. It's not because they're a booty call. It's just for whatever reason they decided that they wanted to hold on to this person's memory, and that's.
I think, you know, when we start talking about, is it territorial, is it insecure, is it unrealistic, it's all these different things. But like you said, it just boils down to a basic level of respect. And a basic level of respecting that everybody has a past. Absolutely. And everybody comes with their own level of baggage, whether it's from previous...
Decided to pack his and put it in an attic.
And honestly, if those things mean something to him, that should, I feel, spark a conversation. That's a great way to start a communication on, why is this important? Is there something that you're not telling me? Like, is there something that maybe you need to work through on a deeper level, emotionally? It's so many things there, but to just throw it away and to make a person feel like that it never happened. Yeah. I just don't think that.
That's not cool.
Yeah, and that's not okay.
Steve, I'm the kind of person, if I see, we be having dinner and I'm like, so I found so-and-so stuff upstairs.
Yeah.
And it'd be, Kiki, oh, so you kept it, huh? Like, it would be funny and I might be a little snarky about it, but it's not gonna lead to me throwing away and possibly heading for a divorce. It's not that deep for me.
Expect the shades.
Yeah, expect that.
Okay. Because I'm gonna give you a little bit.
Because you know who you with. Because that's who I am.
You know who you married.
Okay.
I mean, what about you? Would you see your wife having some old things from the past and feel some type of way about it?
Well, see, I know that men and women are different.
Okay.
So I don't know if her keeping things has the same complexion as me keeping things.
Explain.
Okay. I think that in most cases, women tend to be a bit more sentimental, and things penetrate at a deeper level and stay with y'all a certain way. So if a woman is holding on to these things, I would be a little more concerned. But that's just me. I mean, sexist, maybe. Realistic, I think so.
Well, so just to be clear, right? Deeper level of sentimental value than if a man does it?
No, not necessarily that, but I am saying that women tend to be very, very intentional about their breakups and about creating space for themselves or distancing themselves from an individual. So if they're holding on to keepsakes from that individual, I think that person still has value somewhere in their heart.
That's triggering for me. Because I have some items.
I don't know if I all the way agree with that.
I have a drawer of just the past.
Really?
I have a drawer by my bedside, the third drawer at the bottom. It's a drawer of shirts, of gifts. Anyway.
See?
Wow, well.
And I don't know why I hold on to it.
Do you still talk to those people, though?
Here and there, I have no interest of being with them. They can honestly come and pick it up. I just don't throw it away. I don't know. I value things though, not in a sense of like I want to keep it for myself, but like I don't want to just throw away a shirt. Somebody could use that
This is
shirt.
a perfectly
Yeah.
good shirt.
It's a perfect good shirt.
Well,
He
why
might-
don't you give it to like Goodwill?
That's a good. I don't know. I have a lot in my trunk right now, probably of clothes that I need to take to Goodwill. So I'll just add it to the
pile?
to the pile.
Yeah,
But it's not
fair
like
enough.
I really want those items. It's just it wasn't suitable in my closet anymore. I didn't want to look at it every day. So like you said, women are intentional with holding on to things. But to our point, it could just be, hey, I forgot it was there.
Hey, that is very true. And I just want to say that's not all women. I mean, I would probably be with someone that had a bigger issue that I still communicate with all my exes, but on like a, hey, how you doing, checking in? Because I just feel like if you were ever somebody in my life and I cared about you, I'm just not going to throw you away and not care about your well-being
So
anymore,
kind.
even though it didn't work out. But I think that also is me. I go into dating and situations with the idea of this may or may not work out. You might fall in the friend category after we get done. You might fall in the lover category. We never know. But you know, it's like, if you were a good friend, you just didn't make it as a romantic partner. What, I'm
Yeah.
just supposed to forget about you? I just, don't have that in me, so.
Well, some of us keep things, some of us throw things away. We hoped, homeboy, that we helped you out. Your wife is a little crazy, we can all admit. But everybody is a work in progress here in Single in the City. So thank you so much for your question. We hope we answered it to the best of our abilities.
Yeah.
Guys, we have a very special guest coming up on our next segment, so keep it locked.
Are you finding that online more or maybe not so much?
There's a lot of filters that women have. There's a lot of things that you really don't know that person until you actually meet them in person.
So in other words, you guys are being catfish.
Definitely.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. Wacha. Opening that education savings account when she was little. Spearheading a campus tour. And another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? Well, now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Would you say that trauma for citizens around the globe?
Trauma walks with us through life, through things we see, through communities we live in, through experiences that we've been exposed to. So, the pandemic kind of took all that stuff that was back there that we really haven't addressed and says, oh, well, hold up. I got another story to tell you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Single in the City. We are so happy today because we have a very special guest in the building, our very own Pastor E. Dewey Smith Jr., which we might add is a world-renowned recording artist added to his resume as well as pastor. Here in Atlanta, but of course by way of Macon, Georgia. Thank you so much for being here, Pastor.
Thanks
We're excited
for
to have
having me.
you.
Glad to be on Single in the City. An amazing job. This was the vision to have you three on this show and to see it come to fruition is mind-blowing. So thank you for the hard work. It's amazing. I watched this one.
Oh, but this is
I do. I
awesome.
watched this one.
So everybody else tell your friends because we have somebody that said watch our show.
That's
Yes.
right. Make sure
Okay.
you watch it.
We got the stamp of approval around here.
Indeed.
So,
Indeed.
well, that is so good. We'll jump right in. So, as you all know, we're talking about marriage. And we just got done with our Asking for a Friend segment, away some keepsakes, but we want to change directions a little bit here. And we want to really talk and dive deep into with someone that has been married for 27 years now. So, congratulations on that. That's where
Thank you.
a hand
Yeah.
clap.
Indeed.
We still singing in the city, but we're trying to get here.
Yeah.
So for the 27 years, I guess like the biggest question is with going on in your life, what are some things that you wish that you knew before that you can tell us young folks now about
Wow.
being married?
What a question, man. You guys, you didn't waste any time. A couple of things. I think, number one, first, thanks for having me. But I think a couple of things come to mind. I wish I had been told about the impact that having children would have on your relationship initially.
Oh,
You know what I
wow.
mean? Yeah.
Wow.
You know, of course, very, very excited. My wife and I were married 5 years. And so for 2.5 years, when she left her job, you know, it was just us two. And but when he came along, we were, of course, incredibly excited, but it shifted the marriage.
Wow.
It really did. You don't realize it, but children change everything. And if you're not mature enough, or if you're not enough, and if you're not communicative enough, it can have adverse effects and consequences in a relationship. Looking back, I don't think I communicated enough. I think I took a lot and didn't express a lot of the frustrations that I was experiencing early on. I wish I had. Yeah, I mean, 11 months and after he was born, I took her on vacation. Our first time going somewhere by ourselves. He was almost a year old, and she cried the whole time.
Oh,
So
wow.
I scheduled this trip. We in Bahamas, and day one, and so I hadn't been with her anywhere in almost a year.
Wow.
So this was September 2001, and she literally cried the whole time. So 2 days, those types of things. So it was difficult, And so I think just having that conversation, being mature about it, and talking with somebody who can help you kind of process, here the do's, here's what to accept, so you can navigate. Not that because you want your child taken care of, but you can lose yourselves also if you're not careful.
Wow, that's powerful. Like,
Yeah.
I've heard some conversations recently about people actually remembering to prioritize their spouse and the importance of making that differentiation between your kids and your spouse in terms of where your commitment and where your focus should lie. So that is really interesting. I hadn't even thought about how kids can impact a marriage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
me either.
Yeah, no more traveling, no more doing what you want to do. They run the house.
yeah.
And I think the second issue for me is I wish I had been told that I would change and that people do evolve in marriage.
Wow.
I got married at 24, and the person I was at 24, I was not that person at 40.
Yeah.
Right.
And so both people are, I like the word evolving.
Yes.
If you're both evolving, because your needs also change.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you, again, don't together, it can lead you to devolving.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, man. I think that's a great question, that a great place to ask the question about what basic qualities make a good spouse. Like, what was your thought process in choosing a wife?
That's good.
Yes.
Who understood my world. I had prior to Andre, I dated another girl very, very seriously. But I knew that from high school, my ministry.
Okay.
Wow.
We dated before in high school, before I got into ministry. And when I announced that I was called to preach, man, this girl, you would have thought that I had killed her mom and her dad. Literally.
Really?
Yeah, literally. And so she loved God, but she loved this preacher stuff. And when we came to college, she came here as well to Atlanta. And I have to preach on Sunday mornings, and it's 4 o'clock. I don't know where she is. You know what I mean? So I'm up all night. Like, I got to preach in the morning.
Man.
She's out. She don't want to be the preacher girlfriend.
Wow.
And so it was, and looking back, it was just unfair for her too, because we both were young. So I wanted somebody who loved God, who could accept my ministry. I wanted somebody who would be able to ride with me during the rough times.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And somebody who I could trust, somebody who was good with money. And somebody who's good with money. I wanted somebody, who would be honest, and somebody who would tell me the truth.
Oh, yes.
And somebody who I felt safe with.
Oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, something that's really important, because a lot of people do get married and they don't stop and think, does this person fit into my world? Does this person fit into how I see myself 10, 15, 20 years from now?
Yeah, it's sometimes, unfortunately, we can be very superficial, particularly younger.
Yes.
and even older.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so she wasn't a certain size, the hair wasn't a certain length,
Mm-hmm.
or if the teeth didn't have a certain brightness, then that excluded them from the possibility, And so we looked, most of the time, as a young man, it was all superficial. It was all on the outer,
Yes,
Did
sir.
she have some junk in her trunk?
Right.
How did she smell? How did she look?
Mm-hmm.
And me, honestly, it's interesting because I was talking to Kamar about this a while ago. I wanted somebody who could articulate. I wanted somebody who could be, here's how I describe it, a piece of china and a paper plate.
Come on.
Okay.
If we
I love
went
that.
to the
Right.
White House, they could dress up and be a piece of china.
Yes,
Okay.
If we went to the barbecue round the way with my uncles,
Yeah.
I know that's right. She plays
Oh, I love
favorites.
that.
she could be
Yep.
a red
And
paper cup.
wins.
You know what I mean? So I wanted both. That kind of dexterity, and a lot of people don't have that. But I wanted that person who could fit it, and I can be just as ghetto if I need to be. So I need somebody hood and holy. God and ghetto.
Amen.
at the same time.
Yeah.
Amen to that.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
Man.
Absolutely.
So I want to ask, I'm doing amazing. What is it like in your marriage currently as you continue to reach new heights and find new navigation through different roads at your newfound success?
That's a great question. We talk about this evolution piece because honestly, Andrea, her preference, she never wanted to marry a preacher either. So she swore she would never marry a preacher.
Mm.
And I swore I've never preached, so be careful what you swear. But interestingly enough, her preference is a 9-to-5 guy.
Mm.
Yeah, her preference would be a good deacon who sings in the male chorus,
Yes, sir.
maybe, and go to the men's ministry once a month,
Yep.
and go to church with them. That's really her preference, because of the pressures associated with it. She's understated. She doesn't want to be on the program. She doesn't want to take pictures. She doesn't want to wear the big hats for Women's Day. Don't make her the co-pastor. Don't just let her chill and take care of the boys. It's going to grow sometimes. I think it stretches her sometimes because I think it makes her uncomfortable. I think she wants to see me fulfill what God has called me to do, but her preference is to be understated, under the radar, and just let me hold you down from that perspective. So I want you to be more upfront, but it makes her uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think it makes her uncomfortable because I think sometimes she's like, okay, when you gonna stop? Because I'm always pushing. You know what I mean? I'm always what's next, because I want to die empty. You know what I mean? I want to fulfill everything.
Yes,
so
sir.
I think that's a challenge, even for us now. But I don't think her preference is not for me to do all I'm doing. But she knows that I've been called to do it.
Right.
And she feels her responsibility is to help me. And she's very helpful, when I need it, but her desire, this is not her desire. So she's had to give and take. And so I think that sometimes, which brings me to another point. Well, we can talk about that in a moment, but it's not our preference. So we just have to kind of negotiate those spaces. Fortunately, it gets better as the kids get older.
Yes.
Because it doesn't require as much time. But if she had her way, I would be Deacon Dewey. You know what I mean? And just, really, she would.
Man, I have such an amount of admiration for Lady Smith. Like, she is so cool.
Yes.
And I think when you said that china and paper plate, like,
Yeah.
that was so apropos. She is the epitome of class, but she's fun too. And I one thing that you said that stuck out to me was when you said you were looking for a spouse, you wanted to find out if she could be a safe space.
Yeah.
And the way I heard that was emotionally, because I know that so many times we as men don't really, we don't really discern well sometimes whether that woman can be that. Are there any tips you would give to the brothers for how to discern?
That's
if
a great
woman can
question.
be a safe place?
That's a great question. I struggled honestly because my parents had a horrible marriage.
Wow.
Horrible. Back in the day when a young lady got pregnant, particularly when she was a teenager, either you married that girl or you get a 12 gauge to your head by the girl's father.
Yeah.
So that was kind of like my parents' context. So my mom was 15. So, people got married. They never should have been married.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So my dad is 18. My dad is 16. Well, he's 17, 18 when he got married.
Yeah.
You look on all the pictures, when they first got married, everybody's smiling except him. He looked like he looked like, he lost his best friend in the world. Every picture, never smiles.
Yes.
Wow.
all our family pictures. So you could tell dude was never happy. You know what I mean? Because I didn't understand this dude is just mean and just horrible. You know what I mean? And then you get older and realize that, heck, all of us want Similac together. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yo,
So
that's
so he
real.
never had, he never lived. And
That's
unfortunately,
real.
same with my mom. And so what happens is I was honest with her. I do not want a house of vitriol and toxicity.
Yes.
I don't want a house where there's a bunch of fussing and screaming. I don't do that. I don't
Yeah.
do. Only time I get loud is if I'm preaching
Yeah.
and I'm singing.
Yes.
Other than that, I don't want fussing and screaming in my house. That's what kids tonsils out because I don't want that, right? So being honest about where I was from and my context, so she knew the struggles my parents had, and she was honest about her situation. And so I'm like, I don't know how to. And when it was time for me to be a dad, it's like I need you to help me because my dad was not paternal in the least bit.
Yes, sir.
He wasn't. He didn't know. He didn't. We were all foreign.
Yes.
Now his dad was, an amazing dad later on, but my dad he struggled. So I was very honest about, I need you to help me. When these boys come along, help me because I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I want to be a good father, and so she helped me with that. I think sometimes I focus more on being a pastor and a preacher and a father, and maybe not as much on being a husband.
Yes, sir.
So I should have had somebody to help me be a better husband too. So I focus on being a good dad and a good pastor and a good preacher, but I never ask her, how to be the same as a husband.
Yes,
So,
sir.
but even having those vulnerabilities, and this is where I am. I don't want to be that, and I would say that she has been amazing in that regard.
Wow.
So, and in a lot of ways, I've been a better father and preacher and pastor than husband because I focus on those things more.
Yes,
You know
sir.
what I mean?
Yes,
so,
sir.
but being able to be vulnerable about that as well, I think has been helpful.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to say this is amazing just to hear how vulnerable you're being.
Yeah.
For a lot of our viewers that probably see you only as the pastor, being open about things that you wish you could do better, things that you wish you knew sooner, that's a really huge thing. And I think a lot of men, specifically men in our community, don't hear someone of your stature really speak to that.
Yeah.
Speak to the fact that it's okay to not have all the answers going right into it. It's okay to, grow into being a better husband or grow into being a better father, but making that effort is where the accountability.
Faith community, we've made marriage almost like this idol.
Yeah.
Yep.
And where it's something that, to be desired and to be worshiped, but in terms of preparing for it, in terms of being emotionally ready for it,
Yes.
and the real reality, which is a whole other question, is not for everybody.
Yes,
I hope
sir.
y'all get to that at some point.
Yes.
Comments I can make about it as well.
Yes.
Things I've seen about it. And so I just want people to know, one of the things Jesus did when he got up on Sunday morning, he showed people his scars.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And he showed the disciples his scars, and they were able to believe because they saw his scars.
Yes,
and
sir.
so I just want people to know that this is not all rosy, and particularly as a pastor, I've had significant challenges, in pastoring and life, in ministry, and family, deaths, and the evolution, and trying to be a parent. So it's not easy.
Wow.
And marriage and parenting are two of the only full-time jobs that you don't get paid for. And so
Yeah.
people want another job, but
Yeah.
there's no check that's coming. So it would help if it was, but I want people to be aware of that. So that you know what you're getting into before you do it, because many people are very idealistic about it.
Wow. Wow.
That is really good. And so I guess that leads me to my next question, which is you're a marriage counselor. You've helped people coach them down the aisle. What are some things from a biblical standpoint, like some points where we can go to in the Bible and say, this is what God wants for us as the ideal relationship or marriage? And what does that look like?
That's great. When you think about marriage, I like to look at the original marriage. Because God creates Adam from the dust of the ground.
Yeah.
Genesis 2:7. He breathes into Adam's nostrils the breath of life. That represents relationship or connection. So Adam has a relationship or connection with God. I think every man who desires to be married needs to have a connection with God.
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Yeah.
Some kind of relatability, because you really can't love your girl until you love God.
Yeah.
Because you can't love somebody else until you love God. Secondly, God places them in the Garden of Eden, gives him a residence, so he has his own space. I think it's good for a man to be able to have his own space
Yes, sir.
prior to getting married.
Yes, sir.
I don't think that a man needs to be dependent on his mom or maybe I'm a little old fogey or four of his frat brothers or his girlfriend. I think a man needs to be solid enough and stable enough where he shouldn't have to bring his wife into his mom's basement.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people may disagree. Maybe that's because of where I'm from.
I agree. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, and
Don't
then
bring
the
me to
Bible
your
says
mama
in
house.
Genesis 2:15 that God gives him, here are all the trees you can freely eat.
Yeah.
Which represents for me resources.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you some groceries before you get the girl, because she's gonna want to eat when she comes.
Yes.
So you gotta be responsible. Then God gives him a restriction. He says, "Now, okay, of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, don't eat it, because the day that you're sure to die." That's your restriction. Here's what you can have. Here are the trees you can eat from. Here's what you can't. So there needs to be some sense of boundary.
Yeah.
Some sense of what's purposeful, what's not purposeful, what's helpful, what's hurtful.
Yes.
And then God said in Genesis 2:18, now it's not good that the man should be alone. The one who has a relationship, the one who has a residence, the one who has resources, the one who is responsible for being in the garden to take care of it.
Yes, sir.
And the one who knows the sense of restriction. It's not good that the man. Bible never says it's not good that man should be alone. It says this one.
Yeah.
This one who's responsible, this one who has resources, this one who has a relationship with God, this one who has his own residence, this one who understands restrictions. It's not good that this one be alone.
Yes, sir.
Some jokers need to be left alone.
Yes, sir.
But this one here, he qualifies. And so that's for the she's taken from Adam's side, which is beautiful because she comes from inside of him. So in many ways, God takes Adam's rib and he creates from what he took out of Adam. So that's a good question for men. What's inside of you?
Ooh.
What if God brought back to you what he took from inside of you?
My God.
Could you receive? Would you be loving? Would you be accepting? Are you ready to get what God brings back to you?
Yeah.
So if God reached inside of you and took some out of you and created a wife out of that and brought it back to you, would you like that? Could you be married to you? So, and then she's from his heart and blood, and then she's from his side, not behind him, to be in his shadow, not from his feet to be trampled over, not from his fist to be abused, not in front of him to lead him like he's docile and passive, but from his side. So for me, Wilbur Harlan's book, His Needs, Her Needs, says a man's greatest needs are sexual fulfillment, a beautiful spouse, affirmation, and love and kindness. A woman's greatest needs are peace and a man that she can respect.
Yes.
And so, but that's Adam and Eve in Genesis 2.
Wow.
So Genesis 2, that was ideal marriage.
Yes,
but
sir.
Genesis 3, they got kicked out of the garden. So there's a difference between ideal and perfect. So I hope I answered your question.
Man, that is so powerful. Listen, we've got to take a brief pause for the calls right there, but stay right there. We've got more of this incredible conversation with Dr. E. Dewey Smith when we return. See you soon.
One of Dr. Gino's strengths in his preaching to me is his ability to situate the listener.
Transition is hard. In fact, I dare say that it's one of the most difficult things to do. And I mean, in a real sense, it is so hard that in one, it produces fear.
You pick an image that we all can relate to. What do you love most about your practice of African-American preaching? Go.
My practice of African-American preaching is steeped in Zora Neale Hurston's Negro expression. When we sing a song, it's sung a lot differently. When we do a dance, it's done a lot differently. When we preach a sermon, it's done a lot differently because we take it through our struggle and we adorn it and beautify it. And we've had to dare to find God and mine hope so that we might be able to know that the trouble that we go through doesn't last always.
You're home before sunrise, on top of the house, the kids, and our future. The smell of your cooking is our alarm clock. My Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now so we can feel prepared for retirement. A free 3-minute online chat can give us the personalized tips we need so we can live our lives the fullest. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Nice.
are back. Welcome to Single in the City. We are having a very exciting, enlightening conversation with our very own Pastor E. Dewey Smith Jr. Thank you for being here today with us.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm glad to see you.
Thank you.
Took you a long time getting here, but you got here. Get here when you can, Jill.
We get here when we can.
I'm glad you're part.
We are so excited to continue to ask you about. So, I want to know, why would women want to be married when almost 60% of Christian marriages fail? 50% of overall marriages fail. So which doesn't account for miserable marriages? Is it being Christian, or is the secular world easier?
Well, let me just say this, and I'll come back to that question. And I don't want to be offensive, but I want to just say this. First of all, by the year 2025 in Atlanta, 60% of African-American women won't get married. Wow.
I need to move.
Period.
Yeah.
Even if they desire to be married.
Wow. I believe that.
Wow.
So they're projecting in the next 3 years that 60% of African-American women in this city won't get married, whether it be due to the disproportionate number of men versus women, the incarceration system, the mortality rates. So 60% won't get married.
Wow.
Wow.
So that's first and foremost. So now that's a challenge for our theology, that we've just told women, stay chaste, stay pure, because Boaz is coming. Come on.
Yeah.
Boaz ain't coming for 60% of black women. So just cut the madness and stop lying. He's not coming. Okay, period.
Yes, sir.
So now you got 60% of women wanting to be married, and then you have the stat that you just mentioned, and another 56% of marriages that aren't effective. And that are miserable, those that are unhappy. So I think a couple things. There needs to be a redefinition, because I believe that marriage is beautiful.
Right.
I believe that it's still honorable. I still believe when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing.
Yes,
Yeah.
I just believe that. I believe that. And I think it's possible. But I do believe that there are steps that should be taken. And I also believe that at times, how we view marriage theologically and biblically is not necessarily how we view it practically.
Wow.
And so there's a bit. So if you look at marriage, if I looked at my family, that's no reason why I would want to be married. My parents were miserable. Both sets of grandparents were miserable. Aunts and uncles on my maternal side, all divorced. So when I looked around, there is not one paradigm in my immediate context.
Yes, sir.
I would say I want my marriage to be like this.
Yeah.
So if all you see is people unhappy and miserable and pitiful, and people in the church, they're happy on Sundays but miserable throughout the week, why would you want to be married?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think, and then when you talk about just the legal pieces of it, and the divorce and the starting over and the pain, a lot of my friends, ladies and men are like, let's just have eternal girlfriends and boyfriends.
Yeah.
You have your place, you have our place,
Yeah.
and we come together, we hook up, and we connect, and blah, 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 blah.
I like that.
It's like, oh, Lord, Jay, I should have known.
like that.
I should have known that you would say
I
that.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not shocked that Justin likes that comment.
Yes.
We travel the country together. I am not shocked that you say that. But I do think we have to take away the idealism of marriage. I mean, when you think about most marriages, most weddings, I'm writing a book on this. The average wedding cost $27,000. But most people go into their marriage in the hole financially from the wedding. And we're like the Hatfields and McCoys after the honeymoon. Finances are the number one cause of divorce, but most couples, African-American couples, go into their marriage in debt. Financial thing that signifies your great union is inevitably the thing that leads to your destruction. Then secondly, we get married, and we have these, how bachelor parties are, and guys go on bachelor parties on Friday night, do whatever. My friends, my brothers took me out. I got back home at 11 on my wedding day. The wedding was at 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so 11 in the morning.
I was thinking 11 at night.
No, the wedding was 3 hours later. So I'm looking at the preacher and wondering, all my groomsmen, what does it smell like up here? So fortunately, I had a good, solid, I wasn't into any foolishness, but a lot of bachelor parties, some of the craziest things happen. And now it's happening for bachelorette parties.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Saturday at midnight. I'm involved in everything but that which is pure and says I respect my marriage.
Wow.
And the next night, I'm expecting to be with my bride and my groom.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm going into it taking all kind of demons and all kind of symphonies. So if I'm on a Friday night with my friends, my girlfriends now, my frat brothers now, and I'm getting married the next day.
Wow.
And the same lips or whatever you just done whatever with the night before, now you want to stand before God and say, so help me God.
Man.
So it's no wonder when you think about all the different things that we've done culturally, I think mentally and then you take into consideration the things that we grew up with our parents that were not healthy.
Yes.
The traumas that we may have experienced.
Yeah.
Because we come from our environment. So if you had a dad or a mom and how they approach the environment and those traumas and those unhealthy things and those that baggage and those toxicities that you also bring, and man, you look into it, no wonder it's schizophrenia everywhere.
Wow.
Yes.
And no wonder it seems like we didn't get a really solid start. So I would just tell people, man, look at it and are you honorable? Are you ready? Would you? And that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. I'll just stop right there for now.
No, I love that. And even when you speak about staying in a marriage, should you stay in a marriage because, quote unquote, the church says that's what God will want? Is divorce okay now in today's age?
Well, you know, people say, they should say, what God has joined together, let not man put us asunder. And the Bible does say that. But unfortunately, God doesn't put us all together.
Ooh,
Come on, our flesh does, sex does, looks do, finances do, children do. I don't believe that anything that is toxic, that takes away your peace, that doesn't push you higher, that you can't grow in, that's abusive emotionally, physically, psychologically. You know, I don't think God intends for us to be in misery. However, at the same time, I do think that sometimes we in our rush to be free, that sometimes people don't put the amount of work in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That if you have kids, that before you just boat and jet on a marriage, can you honestly say, I have done everything within my power to make this work?
That part.
Particularly if you bring kids into the world, they didn't ask to be here.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna break up their whole home and just make them move and adjust, and kids are moldable and kids are flexible, but have you done everything before God? Because sometimes we jump from one thing to the next thing and we use my peace.
Yeah.
And marriage takes work. You know, Lance Watson, one of my best friends, was having an issue with his wife and talked to his mom. She said, listen, give me the 10 characteristics that you want. His wife had 8 of them. He said, well, you want to leave, but that's still a B.
Yeah.
That's passing in school.
Yeah.
Got A's and B's. So you're going to end up losing and leaving your marriage for all these years for a B.
Wow.
Trying to find 20%. And you may find 20% and miss out on your 80s. So I think sometimes we look for perfection in marriage and perfection in our spouses. And I think sometimes when you don't get what you want, you run because we just, I'm not happy. I just think that's kind of unfair. So work for it, fight for it. And as long as you can grow from it and the relationship pushes you forward, it's not perfect. And I think sometimes we look for perfection because social media has us thinking that everything is perfect.
Yeah.
And so that's what so don't stay, but make sure you do what you can do. So when you leave, you're at peace.
That's really, really good. Very good. And, you know, I want to jump back to something because I know for me personally, the reason why I even wanted to do Single in the City and come on here with my awesome co-host is because I started to notice that there is a really big disconnect between dating from worldly standards and dating. And what does that look like when you're out here dating in the world, but you're a Christian person? What advice can you give to our viewers and us too, asking for myself, about what we can do to still keep the grounding of what we've learned, our foundation and our Christian values, but taking that into the world and being able to correctly discern the people that we're choosing to be involved with? That's
a phenomenal question, as the others have been. You know, for me, Christianity is not monolithic. That's one thing. Just because we have our different versions of Christianity. I think for me, you know, when we talk about being unequally yoked, and what does that mean? Sometimes they think it's Christian versus non-Christian. I think it's also dealing with chemistry. For me, what are the essentials, you know, for a couple? Like we were all taught that when you get married in the church, before you get married, you're supposed to be a virgin. You know, and I understand the logic behind it. You know, when you get married, when you've given yourself to your spouse, it's beautiful when you can say, this is the only person that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And that when you're dating for the sake purposes of dating, then there's a certain limit. There's a certain space that you don't even go out of. The challenge now is, and then courtship takes it more serious. That's where it becomes more intimate, more serious. You become more exclusive. When you're dating, you can date whomever. I mean, I think Tia talked about that a while ago on one of the shows. You know, that's when you can be more flexible, multiple friends. We all. But when we moved from dating to courtship, now that's where it becomes a little more serious.
Yeah.
I can ask questions. I can meet mom or go home, or now I can maybe perhaps post your photograph on Instagram. But now we're talking about the next level.
Right.
Now, what does that look like in terms of intimacy or sex? Because unfortunately now, we live in a sex-craved culture.
Yes.
What does it like in terms of drinking? What is it like in terms of people who may, smoke marijuana or eat edibles? What is it like in terms of you want that person to come to church with you? That's when I think the conversation needs to be on, for instance, I have a friend who married, and he's been married years, but his wife was vegan. And we went to college together, and he has his wife believing he's vegan. So we go out, he's gonna order 24 wings and eat. My wife's going, I'm looking at this dude like, what is your problem, dude? You can't tell your wife you're eating chicken wings? Because she's gonna keep. So something is really, what I would say to people, to answer your question, I think there needs to be a certain sense of exclusivity at the dating process.
Yes.
Yeah.
You don't get all access to me. You don't come into my space, come into my, no, we just gonna kick it. I'll meet you wherever. I don't need you spending a bunch of money on me. I got my own, because a lot of times now if a guy spends money, take you on vacation, they want something in return. So I think you got to be very, very clear up front. If let's go to the Bahamas, okay, what are your expectations? If you're not serious, why am I in the same room with this guy, with this girl? This is just my opinion. This is me speaking.
Yeah.
That if I'm just taking you, I just met you 2 months. We going to Bahamas, we kicking it down there, and now everything goes because we just having fun. For me, I think that can inevitably come back to haunt you because now it's reduced each other. It's more of an objectifying of each other.
Yes.
And not taking it so serious, sharing your innermost parts or whatever. Oh my God. So to me, the struggle, you go, oh my God, she's so fine. So we go in the club or whatever one night and do whatever and blah, 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 just to feel better for that night.
Wow. Yeah.
I had a hard week.
Yeah.
It's been a hard, YOLO, you don't live once. Go with your girlfriends. Go ahead and do what you got to do. It's only one time. Hey, it's kicking it. Hey, he grown, I'm grown. Do my
Wow.
But then I want God to send me somebody special.
Right. Right.
That duality. But see, a lot of people live in that, duality. A lot of, especially Christian singles, are guilty of that.
Listen, married people too. I mean, you can get so caught up if you're not careful and frustrated that you dishonor yourself. For me, it's like I'm just gonna have fun. But what's the difference in the person you're gonna marry? If I just go to a club, and I'm thankful that I wasn't able to really do a lot of that. I made some stupid mistakes. But just to go to meet somebody, don't even know their last name, and you out behind the club, first night, don't know anything about it. And I think I'm just having a good time. It's hard to ask God to bless your relationship if there's no sense of exclusivity and what makes this spotty. And give a piece of myself to everybody. At what point do I have nothing left to give?
Wow.
So to me,
I love that.
But a lot of people I'm just gonna have fun. I'm in a have fun stage.
Yeah.
Do whatever I want to do, and then at this point I take it seriously. But I don't know how you make that switch.
Right.
It's hard.
That's the piece.
I don't think that, like what you said, a lot of people go into it and they think that it's just fun starting off. And then you stop and you say, how much have you given of yourself? And then you start looking at the time and be like, how much time have I been having fun?
And another challenge with that too is a man, most time if a guy can go have fun like that with a girl.
Yeah.
Right? And without having any type of weight or any type of process, most of the time that's gonna be a lack of respect.
Exactly.
Wow.
If I because he's gonna think, and I think women ought to see the same way. In that man's mind, she did it with me this weekend, she'll do it with somebody else next weekend.
Absolutely.
So it's hard to take it seriously because anybody can have that special moment.
Wow.
I mean,
you're absolutely right. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right. When you said the word respect, though, it jogged my mind for a question I've been wanting to ask you.
yeah,
Why does the Bible admonish husbands to love their wives,
yeah.
but only speak of women reverencing their husbands?
It's interesting. That's a crazy question. I mean, I think the bigger picture, what marriage is supposed to represent, that passage in Ephesians, husband, love your wives, and never tells the wife to love the husband.
Right.
I think it's because of the picture that it's supposed to be painting, that the husband is the earthly representative of Christ.
Yeah.
So the same way Christ loves the church and makes the church better, and so the greater challenge is on the husband. I also think that it's helpful because most men, whether they're church or unchurched, they've all heard the scripture that woman is forced to submit to her husband. So the greater charge is on the husband, you know, and the woman who's supposed to submit to the husband, versus the greater act is the husband. No, you're supposed to love the wife.
You gonna make the Spellman and me jump out?
Yeah, yeah. So I Christ.
Okay.
In the relationship.
Man, that's awesome.
I think so.
That's awesome.
That is beautiful. And that just goes to speak to, like you said, the covenant. And that's what marriage is. It's a covenant, and it's a mirror or a reflection, as we were speaking before, of God's love for the church and his love for us.
Yeah.
So that's beautiful. Well, look, guys, I think we've had a wonderful,
Wow.
wonderful conversation.
Yes.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
like, let me tell you, this is by far probably my favorite episode that we've ever done here at
Wow.
Single in the City.
Wow.
So again, thank you. And everybody, please make sure you go and stream Pastor's song.
I was a musician, and my mom passed away a few years ago. My sister 3 weeks apart, and my mother always wanted me to do music. So I decided in the pandemic to do this in a tribute to my mom, and it's just resonated with people all over the world. And so it's called God Period. My album is God Period, my EP. It dropped last year in 2021, and my single is just made #1 on Billboard.
Yes,
so,
sir.
which was an ode to my mom. So hey, I think
Amazing.
the greater lesson is this: be gracious to yourself.
Yes.
That's what I want to leave everybody with. Because when my mom passed, I wasn't gracious. I wasn't kind to myself.
Wow.
I was so depressed and so down. It was the darkest period of my life. My godmother, my mother from college, and my sister died in 28 days, and I did not handle it well. You know, I wanted a bottle versus the Bible. I wanted Patron more than a passage of scripture.
Yes, sir.
And it sank me into the lowest moment where I didn't want to preach, didn't want to get out of the bed. And I made some choices and decisions that weren't healthy for me and for my life. But I went to therapy about it.
Yes, sir.
And realized that you can have Jesus in therapy and work my way through it.
Amen.
And it was a mental health issue. And I'm not just saying, a lot of people, I believe in mental health issues. Some people just use that as an excuse for irresponsibility.
Yeah,
I'm saying more than,
agreed.
when they get caught up in something, it's mental health. No, you just trifling.
Yes.
So there are real, you blew it, you're trying to figure it out, you gave too much of yourself, you're still trying to have party, you're still trying to manage your horn and your halo. You know, you can be godly and ghetto, holy and hood at the same time.
Righteous and ratchet.
They're righteous and ratchet. There are moments when you just can't figure, you're just trying to figure it all out. But that's your part of you, and take agency over yourself. Whatever you do is something that you did. And if you blew it, be gracious. Be gracious to yourself. I blew it. I should have never been hanging with them. Be gracious and be cautious. Don't drink everything everybody gives you. Don't smoke everything everybody gives you, because there's some diabolic people out in the world that get you caught up. And now because they smoked something, was laced with something, they drank something, somebody took advantage of them, have on agency. So don't be so fun in the moment that you lose sensibilities. Keep your head on the swivel, watch everything, watch everybody. Don't drink everything, don't smoke everything. Don't invite everybody to your place. Don't let everybody into certain spaces you're unfamiliar. But when you blown it, and you know you blown it, have people around you to tell you blew it.
Yes.
He was an idiot, she was crazy. You take agency, you take responsibility. And when you blew it, be gracious to yourself, because we serve a God who's gracious and merciful. If you blew it, God will give you another chance. And I believe, and you be what you want that person to be. Don't ask God to send you something that you're not willing. You can't expect God to send me people who are whole if I'm broken.
That's right.
So in every area of life. So, and God is going to be your gift. So don't worry about who's absent in your life. Whoever's walked out, don't worry about it, because God's presence is your gift. So hope that said something that makes sense.
Man.
Yes.
So
Awesome.
so much. I think that was such a befitting way to wrap up what I'm going to call our masterpiece episode
Yes,
of
yes.
Single in the City, our masterpiece edition, because we are all a piece of the master. Thank you for reminding us to see ourselves how God.
Can't wait to see this show everywhere.
Let's go.
It's gonna be
do
everywhere.
it.
Trust, remember, I told you this now. Doing an amazing job, and I'm honored that you have me be a part. Don't forget about it when this blows up now. Just let me come back every once a year to do something. Work a camera or something, because it's gonna blow up. It's already blown up. I see it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
I
you.
love it. And thank you guys for tuning in with us. Another episode of
Another
Single in
one.
the City. I love that. The masterpiece episode with our phenomenal,
Very own.
amazingly talented, and let me tell you something. If you've never, you
did
got to
today.
tune in on Sundays.
Yeah.
You heard
Thank
him
you for
preach
being
today.
here, Pastor
some.
E. Dewey Smith Jr. Again, I'm your host, Genesis Moore, along with my wonderful, exciting, and lovely co-host, Mr. Justin C. Gilbert, and also Miss Tiara Berry. And we will see you guys next week for another episode of Single in the City.
You're my lucky strike. Love the way you ride. Look into my eyes, say you're ready to go. $1 million life, we could roll the dice. Act like you surprised, but you already know. You're my lucky strike.